Hi, welcome. My name is Angelique, and this is a talk on Moon and Virgo. And this is my Understanding Astrology series. We're going through the Moon and Moon and Virgo. We're going to talk a bit today through the lens of mythology, symbolism, the four elements. And if it's your first time listening, I've been a student of astrology for over 30 years and I have a background in counseling, mental health, psychology. So I really like to dive deep and get to the root of what is going on, especially in our mind, our bodies, our personality. And so astrology can be used not just as a predictive tool, but as a way to understanding ourselves, our inner world, our relationships. And so I like to take astrology, bring it down from the ethereal spiritual realm and really ground it, see how we can find practical advice and strengths through looking at our birth chart. This is our natal birth chart. And then the description box below, you'll find a link to getting your free birth chart if you'd like to get a whole picture, but this is just a small snapshot. So I'm going to start talking about the sign of Virgo, get into the mythology, pull out the emotions, but since it's the moon, I am going to talk about our inner child, what we can learn about inner child healing, emotional healing through our moon sign in our birth chart. So starting with Virgo, Virgo is a sign in astrology that is ruled by the planet Mercury, and Mercury is named for the Roman god of communication, also the chief messenger god. So his name is Mercury, and I'm only going to really look at the emotional side of the mythology in this series. If you want to know more about the personality, and maybe a little bit of the upbringing and how it would relate to the sign, I have an episode where I talk about the sun in Virgo, which talks more about Mercury and who he was as a person. But for this talk on the moon, we're going to look at emotions because that's what the moon in astrology relates to. So Mercury as a god was someone who was very quick communication. They were known for messaging back and forth. So a lot of Virgo's traits is related to that practical nature, that quick earthly nature, and also helping. Mercury in mythology as the Roman god, he was someone who liked to care for people. He was also someone who led people into the underworld. So passages, journeys, that is what we see a lot with Mercury, but there's a care that comes with ushering people into the underworld. That's a very sensitive point. So Virgo can be a very sensitive sign, and when it relates to emotions, the emotions are going to take on a more grounded nature because Mercury really like this quick back and forth communication and sharing information. The emotions of someone with Virgo, especially in the moon placement, their emotions are going to have that same quality. They're going to be very quick, maybe short. They're going to be maybe full of messages and information, or there's going to be an analytical or a mental bent to how this person receives information and emotion and communicates and expresses their feelings. So what that would look like is someone who has moon in Virgo, that can look like their emotions that are expressed might be more analytical, or they might have analyzed the emotions and they come out in a more grounded, quiet, reserved manner. That need for quick information back and forth, it's going to be a little more challenging in the moon placement because and the moon and emotions, they like to flow. They like to just happen. There's sometimes a spontaneity with emotions, or it's not something that is going to be super logical. So very often emotions can be understood better with people who have moon in Virgo if we break it down to like an activation or a triggering event, what that does in the body. That seems to be how Moon and Virgo can best understand not only their emotions, but the emotions of other people. The god Mercury wanted to share information between people, to give information and receive information. So someone with Moon and Virgo might understand emotions better, or the purpose of emotions, as being told that emotions and feelings are really just information that we can find out about ourselves. So, for example, feeling sad might give us a clue into what is going on in the environment, maybe what made us sad, and how can we make that better. And that kind of analytical reasoning can be better for a Moon and Virgo, instead of just to have an emotion just to have it, and if it doesn't help anybody, it doesn't help themselves. It can be sometimes challenging to just feel an emotion when you have moon and Virgo. I'm sorry. So because you have the really analytical quality, but then you have that grounded earthliness. Virgo is an earth sign. So we're thinking practicality, we're thinking analytical, mental effort. That's sometimes at odds and uncomfortable in a placement like the moon, because the moon just wants to flow. It wants to have this watery nature. Have um, when we have earth and water, usually those emotions are going to stay still. So thinking of something like a river, there's usually ground or earth around it to hold it in place. And so that water is very rarely going to come out, spill out, cause any damage to other people. It's going to be pretty still and contained. And when we understand it that way, Moon and Virgo is going to have that same quality. These emotions, these feelings are going to be more contained. That can also lead to repression. It can lead to just being more reserved. So these emotions are rarely going to be at the forefront. If someone with Moon and Virgo, and outside of other factors like natal chart, upbringing, culture, usually someone with Moon and Virgo, the emotions might be hidden or more reserved, more quiet. It might not even be as well known to them or people around them. And a lot of that has to do with that practicality and desire to be of service to other people and to help other people. And so just feeling a messy emotion that could just complicate things and it doesn't seem like it has any purpose. Someone with Moon and Virgo might push that aside or might understand why it's happening and then move on. People with Moon and Virgo, they love to feel of service. They are compassionate people. But they also really like to feel competent. They want to feel useful. And as you can probably attest to, and I felt this, emotions don't always feel useful, especially in the moment. If you're trying to work on a task and emotion comes that has nothing to do with that task and maybe impedes the task, it might feel annoying. And people with Moon and Virgo might feel that way about emotions. So they're either going to be repressed or hidden, or they are just going to be, they're going to feel them quietly and process it mentally and kind of move on to whatever task they have, because there probably are a lot of tasks. Moon and Virgo, with that practicality, loves a routine, loves order, loves planning. So a day that has a lot of tasks and routines and is organized is going to emotionally make them feel safe than just like a totally free and open day and you're just flowing. That's what the moon wants to do. The moon just wants to flow and base things on emotion. But Virgo is very practical and grounded and also likes information that can serve other people or serve themselves. Now, with Moon and Virgo, there can also be some kind of nervous or restless energy that can come up. And a lot of that has to do with being in this mental space for too long. So, as I said before, people with Moon and Virgo can have a tendency to overthink or overanalyze. So, if you're up there too long, and Virgo rules the nervous system. So, if you're up in your mind too long and you've been overthinking too long, that's going to have your nervous system on overdrive. So, it's going to be heightened, overactive, so what we would call a hyper arousal. So a lot of people with Moon and Virgo, if their mental activity is not blended, balanced well with emotions and rest, especially rest, they can become overly anxious, overly worried, restless, and so we can have somebody who is maybe on high alert all the time. So, but doing things that ground and being in a more earthly space, a more slow space, something that relates to nature or the earth can help combat that. And I'll talk about that a little more. But we can get into inner child healing. So, someone who had Moon in Virgo very often could have been a child where they felt like their emotional needs needed to be hidden or suppressed. And so, someone with Moon in Virgo as a child could have seen somebody or experienced this themselves that messy emotions, loud emotions could have been punished or ignored, or just messaging that loud, messy emotions or feeling your emotions strongly can have negative consequences, or that they're not helpful, that they're not productive. So there also could be the sense that parents or caregivers in childhood really more focused on service. So what can you do that's helpful in the family or the household? What maybe more positive attention was given when they were feeling, when they were productive, when they produced something, when they helped other people. So that is what we can kind of see. And everybody's going to be different because natal charts are very unique and everyone grows up in different situations. But overall, there could have been an emphasis on practical deeds, service, production. On the other hand, someone with Moon in Virgo could have grown up in a childhood where the parents or caregivers had a very disorganized household. Maybe it was too open and free, and maybe even chaotic. Maybe it was really messy. Maybe there were no good routines or plans. Maybe there was just like a huge level of disorganization that maybe you, as a child, Moon and Virgo, maybe you just didn't know what to expect. You didn't know what day was going to look like, or maybe you moved around a lot, or there were very sudden changes or moves to your routine. So that could be it, or it just there wasn't a sense of grounded. You didn't feel rooted as much in childhood. So those are all some factors that can happen when you have Moon in Virgo. But you can heal this. We can always repair this part of ourselves because that child that we were is still there and would like to be healed. So a few things that could possibly help when you have Moon in Virgo. The first is making lists, ordering things, putting things in its right spot. So this could just really look like bullet journaling, having a calendar, a planner, waking up and planning out your day can really kind of help soothe and ground your emotions and make you feel safe, so you can have an easier time throughout the day. Just overall being organized can really help your inner child to heal. This can also look like a lot of people with Moon and Virgo get into jobs or fields where they're helping to organize, find information, help other people with the information that they find. So you see a lot of people who work in logistics, journalism, research, but especially if it's research tied to healthcare and anything that's based in your body because of that earth quality, that earth energy of Virgo. It's going to be very healing to do anything, any self-care that's related to the body. So this could be working out, this could be physical exercise, this could be going getting a massage, this could be getting a haircut. It really depends on what feels good to you, but bringing yourself back to your body to help ground, maybe eating some nutritious food that feels good, root vegetables, things that are very grounded could be really good. Also taking care of any pets or animals. Virgo is very closely linked to animals, and it can bring you keep you feeling grounded because you have to be organized with a lot of pets. You need to plan things out, and that can be a source of emotional healing and connecting in a way that makes sense for you and feels grounded, feels practical, but you are still getting that emotional care and love. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. If you have Moon in Virgo or this placement and you'd like to share how that comes up for you, you can leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you so much again and enjoy the rest of your day.